Hello everybody, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Educating Adventures. I'm really excited for our lesson today because we have a really big topic to discuss, and I mean huge, enormous. Today we're talking about the world's largest tortoise, the Galapagos tortoise. Let's get into it. The Galapagos tortoise is a species of tortoise with about 14 or 15 subspecies. They are only found in the Galapagos Islands. Let's start by talking a little bit about those islands. The Galapagos Islands are a chain of volcanic islands that are located about 600 miles off the coast of South America in the Pacific Ocean. These volcanic islands include 18 main islands, 3 small islands, and more than 100 islands that are so tiny we don't even call them islands. The Galapagos Islands are so isolated from the rest of the world that many of the plants and animals that live there have become very unique. In fact, many plants and animals that are found in the Galapagos Islands are endemic to those islands, meaning they are not found anywhere else in the world. Galapagos tortoises, who we're talking about today, marine iguanas, Galapagos sea lions, and Galapagos mockingbirds are just a few examples of endemic animals to the Galapagos Islands. While there are a lot of really amazing animals that live there, the word Galapago is actually Spanish and it translates to tortoise. The islands are named for the incredible giant tortoises. Because the Galapagos Islands were formed by volcanoes, we know that they were never attached to South America or any other landmass, which means the animals that live there must have gotten there somehow. So I want to take just a second, pause the video, and make a hypothesis. How do you think Galapagos tortoises got 600 miles across the ocean to the Galapagos Islands? Well, I will say we don't know for sure, but scientists hypothesize that the Galapagos tortoises drifted over to the Galapagos Islands millions of years ago on rafts of vegetation that were floating across the ocean. Today, Galapagos tortoises live on 7 of the Galapagos Islands. The habitats between these islands can be really different. There's everything from woodlands to dry shrublands, rocky coastlines. Galapagos tortoises live in many of these different habitats. And scientists have discovered that the Galapagos tortoises look a little bit different depending on what type of habitat they live in or what island they live on. And they hypothesize it might have something to do with the food available. Like most tortoises, Galapagos tortoises are herbivores, meaning they like to eat plants. They eat everything from grasses to cacti, flowers, leaves, berries, all sorts of different plants. Scientists have noticed that on the really humid islands where there's lots of grasses and low-growing plants, tortoises on those islands have developed a domed shell, which comes quite a bit forward over their neck and has a lower opening, which is just fine because they're eating food lower to the ground. On other islands where the plants are more variable and a lot of them are up above the ground, like from cacti or shrubs, tortoises on those islands have developed a saddleback shell, and these shells sit further back on their shoulders and have a higher opening so the Galapagos tortoise can reach its neck up high to reach all of those foods high above the ground. If you would like to learn more about the differences between domed shells and saddleback shells, be sure to visit our species spotlight. Now let's talk for a second about drought, because drought is very common in the Galapagos Islands. Drought is a period of time that receives very little rain, and on many of the islands, Galapagos tortoises will travel higher in elevation, like up the side of a mountain, to reach areas where more food is available during those droughts. Tortoises use these same pathways year after year for many generations. Because they're using the same pathways, they've kind of carved these roads up the side of the mountains, and we call them tortoise highways. Thankfully, Galapagos tortoises have many adaptations that have them kind of built for surviving these droughts. A Galapagos tortoise can go up to 6 months without drinking water because they get most of the moisture that they need from their food. Now, if there's no food or water available, a Galapagos tortoise can still survive for months by breaking down fat that is stored in their enormous bodies. Now let's take a second to talk about those enormous bodies. We did say right off the bat that Galapagos tortoises are the largest species of tortoise in the world. The largest male, because males tend to grow quite a bit larger than females. The largest males grow up to about 800 pounds. However, on average, they're closer to 400 or 500 pounds, which is still really big. The females, they typically average about 300 pounds, maybe a little less. Because they are so huge and because, like all tortoises, they have that gigantic shell on their back, they have a lot of protection, and there really aren't any predators that will be able to eat an adult Galapagos tortoise. Their only predator is the Galapagos hawk, who's typically feeding on eggs and babies. Speaking of tortoise babies, let's talk for a second about Galapagos tortoise breeding and egg laying. Galapagos tortoises can breed any time of year in the Galapagos Islands. There really isn't a particular breeding season. Males will compete for females using a very intense, very ferocious stretching competition. They will lift their heads up as high as they can. They might open their mouth or even try to bite at their competitor, but typically the tallest, the biggest tortoise is going to be the winner. A while after breeding, females will travel to a nice sandy area where they'll dig a hole and deposit their eggs. Females lay up to about 16 eggs at a time, and then she covers them up with sand, and then she leaves. And after about 4 to 8 months, those eggs start to hatch. The small tortoise hatchlings begin to emerge and start their potentially very long lives. Galapagos tortoises can easily live past 100 years. The oldest one on record was thought to be about 177 years old. Even though these giant tortoises might seem to have it all good, they are unfortunately endangered. In fact, many subspecies have already become extinct. There's several threats that Galapagos tortoises face on the Galapagos Islands. Invasive species is a very big problem, especially with animals like rats and pigs that dig up the eggs that the females lay. Other challenges that they face are things like habitat loss and poaching, people collecting them from the wild or even hunting them. Luckily, there are a ton of rules and regulations in the Galapagos Islands to help protect Galapagos tortoises and all of the other native species. You too can help protect Galapagos tortoises by making donations to organizations like the Galapagos Conservancy. But you can also help other wildlife every time you travel by making sure you're following rules and regulations for the native species in that area. And of course, you can educate your friends and family to do the same. All right, you guys, well, that is all the Galapagos tortoise facts I had for you today. If you would like to learn even more, do quizzes, activities, projects, have way more fun, please visit that link below to visit our website, and I hope we see you next time at our next adventure. Goodbye!